Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, especially our panelists today. Thank you very much. And I also want to give a special thank you to APEG, and it's only because of them that we were able to host this event today. So thank you, Lauren. Before we jumped right into the panel and the questions, I would just like to acknowledge that the land that we work on today is the unsurrendered and unceded land of the past, present, and future Wabanaki people. We are all treaty people in New Brunswick, and we hope to become better allies to Indigenous communities through our work. And yeah, so we'll just get started, and I'll just jump right into introductions. But before we do that, I just would remind everyone that our panel will be recorded today just so we can share the links as a resource. So please stay muted until the very end, and any questions that the students have, we will have a Q&A session at the end, or if you want, you can also type the questions in the chat. So my name is Mia, and I'm the student intern at the Gaia Project. And today we have Ainsley, our special projects manager, as well as Travis, our fundraising manager from Gaia, joining us today. And we also have Lauren, the director of communications from APEG. So just a really quick introduction to the Gaia Project and what we do. So the Gaia Project is a provincial nonprofit, and our mission is to empower youth and teachers to take action on climate change through education. We have been working with K to 12 students in New Brunswick for over 10 years with free, fun, hands-on programming around energy literacy, climate action, student leadership, and so much more. And so that's why we want to help youth across New Brunswick explore how they can take climate action to the next level as professionals. So for us here at the Gaia Project, a green job can mean any job or career that intentionally contributes to a more sustainable world and help address important environmental issues such as climate change. Taking action on climate change can mean integrating sustainability across all sectors and industries, and we believe that all jobs have the potential to become green jobs. So today, we'll be highlighting 3 individuals working in green jobs across New Brunswick. We'll be discussing what the green jobs look like, learn about how they got to where they are today, and I will be going through a list of questions, and I encourage you all to save your questions for the very end. So now I would like to welcome our panelists. I will quickly introduce them and then let them tell you more about their jobs and what they do. So first, we have Jennifer, who's the senior associate in environmental services at Stantec. We have Caroline, the environmental technical specialist at NB Power, and we have Raphael, the president of the APEG NB. So thank you again to our panelists for being here and answering our questions today. And we'll just get started with the very first question. So I'll just be at the question and I'll just go in order who's answering first. So very first question is, how would you explain your job to our high school students? And we'll start with Raphael, go to Caroline, and then Jennifer.
Okay, so I have to start the panel. Okay, so so basically, engineers are people that use science, math, and technology to design a solution. You know, when you have a problem itself, they're gonna use all of those expertise to be able to find a solution or solve that problem. And the end goal is to make sure that that solution is better for us, for the society, for the public itself. So really, the engineers are responsible for many different things depending on the specific field of expertise. But the main responsibility really is around use the scientific method. That's how we basically solve problems, is to use the scientific method. So basically, you identify the problem, you measure, you make your hypothesis, you use the design, use code standards, practices that you do, and then when you finish, you report, make sure that everything's fine. So in a nutshell, engineer.
I think I was up next. So my name is Carolyn, and I am a environmental specialist / waste management specialist at Point Lepreau. And specific to what I do in my job, so I am responsible for the management of all of the waste that's generated at the nuclear power plant, and that includes hazardous waste as well as radiological waste. And on the environmental technical specialist side of things, where we also are highly regulated industry, and there are a lot of acts and regulations and codes and standards that we have to follow, and rules that are in place to make sure that the environment is kept safe. And I work kind of as a liaison between all of the government agencies and the facility to ensure that we are meeting all of those requirements, and that we're not just meeting them, but working to exceed them. And as we learn more about the environment and get stricter regulations that are in place, we work to meet those as well. So that's kind of a high level overview.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer McPhail. I work at an environmental consulting company called Stantec, where I work in the environmental services group. So what that means is that various clients or companies will hire me and my company to help them plan their projects. So, for example, help them to plan their projects to be sustainable and to comply with various environmental laws. So, for example, if there is a company that wants to develop a new mine or wants to make a change to a power generating facility. There's various laws that apply and various studies that they have to do. And so we'll come in and we'll help them plan their projects to comply with those laws and to understand how their project is going to interact with the environment around it, and how it might change the environment around it. So in order to do that, what we'll do first is we'll study the existing environment. So what type of habitat is there? What type of animals live there? How's the air quality? Is there water around the location of this project? What kind of fish live there? And then we'll do some modeling to predict, with this project added into the environment, what is that going to do to change the environment? And what does that mean? Is that going to result in changes to the health of the fish that live in the that live in the area? Is the air quality going to be affected, that that there might be some changes that could be bad for the health of the surrounding residents? So that's sort of the high level technical overview of what I do for a living.
Thank you. Great answers, everyone. So the next question we have, which I hope is an easy question, is what do you love most about your job? What you love most about what you do every day? And we'll start off with Caroline, go to Jennifer, and then back to Raphael.
Hi. So it would be hard to pick one thing. Probably the thing I love the most, though, is the people and the different amount of people that I get to work with. So because my job is so cross-functional and everything we do touches the environment in waste in one way, shape, or form or another, I really get to work with a lot of the people that work at the station, but not only just here in New Brunswick. The nuclear industry is a pretty tight-knit community across the world. And so I get to meet people from other parts of Canada and other parts of the world, as well as we look to kind of come up with solutions across the world for different things that we might be dealing with it from the environment and waste side of things. So it's interesting just to see perspectives from other people from other parts of Canada, as well as other parts of the world as well.
I think the favorite part of my job is the variety. There's really not a day that looks like the day before, whether it's a different project that I'm working on or a different task that I'm undertaking. Really, every day is different. I work on projects that are across New Brunswick and across Canada, so there's lots of variety in the type of work that I'm doing. I also have a couple different roles that I do in addition to the environmental planning. I help with managing projects and, developing budgets and schedules and following those. Team leadership, working with more junior people to help them grow in their career. Doing job interviews to hire people to build their team. So it's the variety, and it's also the interacting with with all the different sorts of people. So I mentioned that sort of the overall, what I do is I help to understand what is the environment and how is the environment going to be changed by a project. In order to do that, you need to have specialists that know a whole lot about every different element of the environment. So I need to work with people who are, have PhDs in fish biology or are experts in toxicology or in air quality modeling, and all those people have to feed into the work that we're doing. So I get to work with all these, really smart technical experts who know so much about the work that they do, and hear about some of the interesting elements of their job as well.
And to add to what's been said is what I really like about engineering is that engineers are very profession that makes a difference basically on all of the different problem solving that we have and we have to resolve. So and we're always challenged to innovate all the time to find that solution itself. And as Bert says, we have to work with others. Collaboration is keys on everything that we do.
Thank you guys again answers. So our next question is, climate change is becoming an increasing concern for people all around the world. So how does your job help to address the climate crisis? And we'll start with Jennifer, Raphael, and then Caroline.
So this is a question that has a lot of, I could talk for a long time about, but I'll try and make it concise. So when we study how a project is going to interact with the environment, one of the big things we think about is greenhouse gas emissions, climate adaptability. If the lifespan of a project is going to be 50 years, well, how is the climate expected to look like in 50 years? And are we building and designing it to be able to withstand floods that we're going to be expecting to have within the lifespan of a project? So really the adapting to climate change and anticipating climate change and helping to work to limit emissions to reduce the effects of climate change is really a central component of everything that I do.
Okay, so also it's kind of in the same the same information, the same aspect. Everything that what we do as an engineer, we have to put sustainability in what we design, and in fact, engineer has kind of a code of ethics that we have to follow, and it's very kind of a doctrine on our practices. And in fact, becoming an engineer is really to demonstrate that one's mind is always have the general interests of the society, and also includes the protection of the life and health and property of economic interests. So we have to make sure that everything we do is safe and is good for the society. So on that helps. The environmental cause and everything that we do is part of all that.
Hey, so for me, I'll kind of look at nuclear power as a whole versus my very specific job that I have there. But one of the plus sides of nuclear power is that it doesn't actually emit any greenhouse gases in its operation. And compared to the amount of land that's required for other kind of zero emission generations like hydroelectric or wind or solar, it takes up a smaller footprint. So it's a part of the mix of a lot of different energies that we need in order to be sustainable going forward. And if we look at that, a lot of people kind of look at that just from the generation point of view, but there is the whole life cycle that has to be looked at there. So when we take all the life cycle, construction, operation, decommissioning, and disposal, all of that into account, nuclear power really compares favorably with renewable energy sources, and it's well ahead of fossil fuels. And just, I have a statistic I was looking for here. So the world's nuclear reactors, there's 445 reactors in the world, and that the estimate is that they're saving about 2.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions every year.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I know nuclear power is one of the less developed energy sources compared to other renewable energies. So that's really great to hear. So my next question that I have is, what are some important skills that you would think that someone would need for a job like yours? And we'll start with Caroline, go to Raphael, and then back to Jennifer.
Sure. So I think when people think of engineering in general, they typically think of a lot of the technical skills that you need. Like you need to be good at your maths and your sciences, but which I mean, you need to have a passion for those things for sure. But your skills in relationship building and problem solving, being able to kind of take yourself outside of the box and look at things from a bunch of different angles to try and find solutions, are also really important. Communication skills are essential, whether that's in person or via emails or technical writing that you're going to be doing. Also very important, especially when you're dealing, like I deal with folks that are from different parts of the world. So there's cultural differences and language challenges sometimes too. So you need to take that into account when you're doing your communication, which is challenging when we were in the kind of shutdown era of everything and everything was done via email or Teams, because sometimes it's really challenging to be skillful in communication when you're restricted to those means and not actually being able to be in person with folks. So I would say the soft skills are definitely just as important as the technical skills.
Yeah, so what Carolyn said, I agree with. It's definitely the skills that I value most in colleagues and when I'm looking to bring someone onto the team. It's really around strong communication skills, strong writing skills. Obviously, the math, the science, the engineering, the understanding about what's going on, and the technical core is crucial. You need to have that as well. But probably even more important is the ability to communicate with the people that you're working with, to write clearly and effectively. Sometimes it can be surprising to think that as an engineer, what I do most of the time is I write. And I communicate the results of studies and of really complicated technical studies and results and programs clearly in a way that can be understood by somebody who's not a technical expert. And that's really sort of the core of what I do is cross that bridge between the PhDs in toxicology to regulators, to the public, to be able to communicate very highly technical manners in a way that can be understood by others. So communication is key. And teamwork, being able to work on a team. Sometimes there's you get a sort of a crunch point on a project or a time of the year where there's so many things to do, and really it's just everybody has to do whatever is needed to be done. And if that means that you're doing something that could be done by somebody who's more junior than you or has less experience, but nothing is not your job. It's a team job, and if it needs to be done, then that's something that you have to do. And getting along with others in a team environment is really important.
I really don't have anything else to add. I had the same points. Basically, you got your basic math and science and stuff like that, and communication is the most important thing. And to add up to that a little bit is, I have a say, when you have a problem, 10% is technical and 90% is dealing with people, is dealing with your team and everything. So exactly right. So and it's almost never the 10% that's going to make the solution fail of what you're going to do. It's in the 90%. That's where you have the most chance of having failure on the project of what you're trying to do. So this is where you need to be able to work a lot more. So it's the relationship that you have to build with your team, and make sure that all of the team brings what's that they're able to provide on the solution itself.
Yeah, once again, really great answers. And I completely agree. And I think these skills are transferable to whatever jobs you want to do, not just in engineering, not just even in the green sector for all that matters, but it's just such transferable skills, especially communication is needed in virtually every single job. So great answers. So next we'll move on to talk a little bit about pathways, how you got to your current positions. So the first question is, what job or career did you imagine yourself in when you were in high school, and how does that align with the position and the job that you're currently at now? And we'll start with Raphael, go to Jennifer, and then Caroline.
So I went to engineering because I wanted to be an astronaut. So that's very far out, but that's actually what I tried to do. So I went to power electronics to study for satellite and do the repairs and design. So that's kind of my first process, and then within the university and so forth, my path I bounced around to other. I kind of went more on the renewable energy side and electrical generation side. So that's kind of the choice of the career. It's kind of, you always try to go somewhere and you end up close, but in a different place.
When I was in school, I wanted to either be a doctor or an astronaut or prime minister, one or the other. So I had sort of I really had a love of all things science and all things math. And I really had a love for things like social studies, history, political science, world issues, that sort of topic. So I started out in university and I did a Bachelor of Science degree in biochemistry, heading towards maybe a career in medicine, and then realized that I think engineering is where I want to be in environmental planning. So I took the long path away from medicine and being an astronaut or politics into sort of the implementation of policy and environmental policy. And the work that I do really is kind of a mesh of policy and of science.
Honestly, when I was in high school, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. If I'm being completely honest, I lived for sessions like these where people would come and talk about things that they did because I was just looking for something that would grab my interest. I knew I wanted to do something that was employable. I knew that I liked math and science, so that would probably lead me down some very specific paths, but I was honestly looking at pharmacy, being a teacher, really. I was just like, I'll be very honest with y'all. I was like, how can I make a lot of money? That's what I want to do. And then someone came in and was talking about engineering. And I don't really have anybody that's in engineering in my family. I really didn't know what engineering was. I've heard of it. I knew there were engineers in the world that did a lot of awesome things. In my mind, they built bridges. I really didn't know what else they did. So this person that came in was talking about pulp and paper engineering technology and that kind of world. So I was like, this sounds actually really interesting. And at that time, it was a thriving industry in New Brunswick. And I knew that I really didn't want to go too far away from home if I didn't have to. I would love to land something that was going to be home or at least near to home. So that when I looked into that, and I really loved chemistry, was kind of one of my favorite sciences. So I was like, well, with all of those combined, UMB was offering the chemical engineering program, and that really seemed to be the best fit for me. I have not worked a day in my life in pulp and paper, but it led me on a very interesting path, kind of down that route to see what things I was interested in. And I'll say that it was just important to learn what I wasn't interested in as it was to learn what I was. So yeah, a very honest answer.
Yeah, I'm sure that was really helpful for the students to hear. I think it's always good for the students to know that it's okay if you don't know what you want to do right now, and you have so much time ahead of you, and you don't have to know anything. And even if you do know, you might not end up where you think you might. So it's always good to hear all the different pathways that people have taken. So the next question that we have is, how did you end up at your current positions? What kind of volunteer, education, or job opportunities did you have that led you to the position that you're in now? And we'll start with Jennifer, go to Caroline, and then Raphael.
Okay. Hi. So I, as I mentioned, started off doing a science degree at UNB. And when I was working there, in I think my second year, I got a summer job at a science and engineering outreach program called Worlds Unbound. And ended up working there for 5 summers. And through that, I really got to know more about engineering and what engineering was. And I decided that I wanted to do an engineering degree. So I did that. Still didn't know exactly where I wanted that engineering degree to lead, but as I was doing it, I figured I'd figure it out eventually. And I took a class during my engineering degree around environmental planning and loved it. It was exactly what I wanted to do. So when I graduated, I looked for an opportunity that in the field of environmental assessments, environmental planning. When I first started out, I've been at the same company since I graduated, and when I first started out, I was doing all sorts of things. I would go out in the woods to collect samples of water and of soil and of vegetation so that we could send them to labs to understand what kind of metals are in there, to understand what is the existing environment. Is there existing contamination in the area? How much and to what levels? I did that. I did one of my favorite days ever of work was we were studying the marine environment around the coastline where there was some commercial lobster fishing that took place. And one day I got to go out on a lobster boat because we wanted to understand is there pollution in the lobster meat that people are eating? Is there any contamination in that? And so I got to go out. I went lobster fishing and I got to collect lobster from specific points around the harbor and then send them off to the lab. But it was so much fun. For work, I went lobster fishing. So it started off doing that earlier in my career. And really just whenever there was a new opportunity or something different that came up, I volunteered for it. Do you want to plan public meetings to talk about this new project? Yep, I'll do that. Do you want to go lobster fishing? Sure, I'll do that. So just really being open to possibilities and being open to trying new things let me discover where I wanted to be and what I liked and also what I didn't like. And then through the years, I discovered I wanted to get into managing projects and looking after, the budgets and the schedules and the planning of projects. And I really wanted to help mentor and coach other people and lead teams. But I've always been really open about new possibilities, and that's sort of my advice to you. Also, is that if you investigate first and try it out, you might not know that you like something until you try it out. Don't be. It served me well to try new things and to be open to new possibilities.
So for me, I have kind of it's jumped a little bit all over the place. So when I was in university, I worked a lot in customer service actually, and that was kind of my forte. I just love being around people, talking to people, and an opportunity came up to be actually a customer service agent at NB Power, just at their front desk through the SEED program. So it was like a minimum wage job. I was in my first year of university, so working in the field of study was not a super common thing for folks to get that early on in my education. So I was like, this sounds like a fun opportunity, and it introduces me to NB Power to see if it's something that I'd like to do. So I worked there for the summer. It was interesting because one of the main things I was doing was taking bill payments, and that was right around the time everything was starting to really move online. So it wasn't super busy. Not a lot of people were coming in to do bill payments in person. But that summer got my kind of foot in the door with NB Power, and the next summer I was able to take a summer position at Point Lepreau, actually in their chemistry lab, it was an engineering job, doing a lot of trending and analysis on like corrosion and that type of stuff in their systems, which was very interesting. And the following year, and I was taking chemical engineering, by the way. I think I might have forgot to say that part. So the following year, we have a co-op program that was, you could either do like 4-month terms, or you could do one big chunk of work for 16 months with what was called the PEP, the professional experience program. So NB Power had a position open to do that 16-month term. And I thought, sure, that sounds awesome. And it path of least resistance, I was like, I didn't have to interview because they already knew me. So let's just try this out and see how it goes. And it was really interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. And when time came to graduate, I was like, okay, that's awesome. I'd love to go work there, where there was really not any opportunities there at that time. They weren't doing full-time or a lot of full-time hiring. So I looked in the mining industry, and I looked in pulp and paper, and I looked in a lot of other areas, but nothing was really jiving with me. And then the regulator, which is the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission out of Ottawa, was looking to hire. And because I had almost 2 years of experience working in nuclear, it was a great opportunity, or I was a great candidate for them. So I went to work with them for 10 years, actually. And with that role, was able to go to places like Vienna, Austria, and meetings with the United Nations, and all sorts of really cool things. All that started because I said yes to a minimum wage job at NB Power, which was kind of awesome. I worked with them in Ottawa and in other parts of Ontario for a few years, and then was able to come back home. And if you remember from earlier, coming back home was kind of always, I'm a homebody. I love my family. I love to travel, but I literally live next door to my parents because I just love to be so close to my family. So being away for a few years was a challenge. So when the opportunity came to work with the regulator at the NB Power site when they were doing their refurbishment, it was an awesome opportunity for me. So I was excited to do that and work with them. But I kind of got to a point where it was kind of a stalemate after 10 years in kind of doing the same position. If I wanted to continue to grow, I was going to need to move either to Ottawa or to another facility. And I really didn't want to do that. So I started looking for other opportunities around here, and actually went to the oil and gas industry for a couple of years. Quickly learned that is not the industry I wanted to be in. And a position became available with NB Power itself as an environmental specialist, which having 10 years of regulatory experience under my belt, and then I was an environmental specialist in oil and gas for a few years. It was almost like my career path had molded me perfectly for this new job opportunity that had come up. So I've been in that role now for 6 years, and still rely heavily on the connections I've made kind of through that whole zigzaggy path, but have loved, I won't say that, I'm not going to lie, I haven't loved every second of it. I've really enjoyed almost all of it. There's been some challenges along the way for sure, but it has been a very interesting experience. And I'm so pumped to be able to have lived all of that and be back here in my hometown and like 5 minutes away from where I grew up, which is awesome.
It's funny, we always bounce around all the time, eh? We don't, it's like we don't have a control to our destiny, basically. So I was at university. I decided to go into electrical engineering, and when I graduated, I had a kind of a contract to develop a electrical vehicle. So I did a master degree. I stayed at the university to do my master degree for putting hydrogen fuel cell for vehicle, and that was like in early, almost 20 years ago, and that technology is starting to appear in the cars now. So that was kind of interesting. But after I finished my master degree, the project was done, so I had opportunity to work for a consulting firm. So I started to do building design. I kind of have a family that's kind of works in that industry a little bit. So I designed, for example, the big buildings I designed is the City Hall in Dieppe. I did all the electrical design for that. I did the ICU in Bathurst Hospital, Tracadie, almost all the superstores that was built about 20 years ago. I almost did all of them. So in the province in Atlantic Canada. So those are kind of the Bouctouche area, the arena with the City Hall. So those kind of infrastructure, I worked a lot. I did a lot of schools too. And then I had the opportunity to go work for a big company called ENGIE. So ENGIE has a wind park, Caribou Wind Park. It's right in the center of New Brunswick. And the project was very, I got pushed there, let's say, when they had a lot of issues. So it was been a year that the wind park was built, and it was not running well because it was getting a lot of ice. and not be able to provide the power that you have contracted to was kind of causing some regulatory issues, of not be able to meet the targets that you're supposed to do for green energy. So I was tasked to find a solution of why the infrastructure is not able to withstand all of that icing issue and the blades and stuff like that. So we did a lot of research and development. I did close to $12 million in research and development on anti-icing system and monitoring system and controls and different tests. And from there, they asked me to join. They call it fleet maintenance, and basically I travel a lot in the States and Canada, a different generation site, basically a wind park, solar park, and gas plant. And when they have issues or a big project, they needed extra hands, so I was there to help them and solve problems. Like there was a big explosion that happened for a new wind park, and they didn't connect the wire well correctly, and it actually exploded, and the building shifted from the foundation. So how do you get inside the building to be able to shut down the power securely and do all that procedure to be safe and so forth? So that kind of those kind of problem that I was kind of asked to do. So after that, I did a lot of R&D, and the government asked kind of a notice on all the R&D and stuff like that we did, and they asked me if I could start a research center in northern New Brunswick for welding. I don't know anything about welding. I'm not a welder. I'm not a mechanical engineer, but it was automation, also process and so forth. So they needed like somebody that knew R&D, like research and development. So I worked there about for 4 or 5 years, and we were able to get called it ATAC. It's a big funding from the government. It's a $5 million project funding every year. That's renewed. It's one of the hardest funding to get for a research center. So we were able to get that, and we basically help companies to put robotics and automation on their process and so forth. And then from there, from that project, I came out back after that when all the project was going well. So I decided to go back in consulting firm and redoing building and wind energy and solar energy. So that's what I'm doing now.
Thank you so much. That's so great to hear about all the different pathways that took you to your position now. This is the last question that I have for our panelists before we open it up for the students to ask questions, anything like that. So my last question is, do you have any advice for the students who are interested in pursuing a career like yours? And we'll start with Raphael, go to Jennifer, and then Caroline.
So the first, I got 4 advice. So the first one is you need your STEM. So your science, technology, engineering, and math. So that's a given. You need to work on those. The second, we already talked about it, is you need communication skill and be able to work with your team. So those are the 2 main skill set that you need to be able to do. Like we explained, is like you finding solution, but you need to be able to, if you want to make a difference, you need to communicate, you need to teach, you need to explain, and then you need to talk about your budget, your plan, your schedule, the costs, and how it's going to work, and to people that are not technical at all. So, and after that, you have to explore different engineering fields. You need to be able to be comfortable to not work in the box. You have to go outside the box, right? The sandbox that you have, there's no border on it. So and engineering is very, very, very vast. So you got your traditional, electrical, mechanical, civil, industrial, and geoscientific also. So those are the traditional, but just for example, in the electrical field, you could be in communication, in wireless, you can be in IT, you can be in software programming, you can be in power distribution, you can be in electronics, in vehicle electrification, so building design, like doing or automation, robotics. Those are completely different fields in a subclass. So there's a lot. The same thing, like if you look at chemical engineering, environment, and so forth. So there is a lot of field where engineers are involved. And the last is you have to stay curious. Always, we never stop learning in engineering because it's always evolving. Just look what's happening with ChatGPT and the AI right now. That's happening. That's kind of changing the way we write reports and the challenges that it brings to school now. How easy it is to write an essay. But all joke aside, it's always changing. So you have to be able to adapt to all that. So engineering can be very, very challenging at the end, but the reward for the career is really that engineering is probably one of the best profession that you can make a difference on and do a positive impact of what you need to do, like on the world, all the different issues that we have, environment, health, security, infrastructure, and all so forth. So on that, I wish everybody good luck on that.
So I agree with what Raphael said. I think in high school it's really important to keep your options open. So if you think there's even a possibility that something in the STEM field might be of interest to you as a career, or as pursuing some sort of post-secondary education in STEM, make sure you take the right classes to make that a possibility. Make sure you have the right prerequisites, and at the same time, follow what interests you. So if you have an interest in a non-STEM field, take those courses as well. Learn as much as you can. Volunteer within your community to meet new people, to make connections, to build those sort of the softer skills that are so important in a career. It's really important in a career to have those softer skills, and also to know people and to have a network. And the bigger your network is, the more you're going to be able to find out about various opportunities. People, you can tell people where you want to be career-wise, and maybe if they're in a position that they're going to be looking to hire someone on their team, then they can remember that conversation, or if you're looking for advice and it's someone to reach out to. So definitely keep your options open. Learn as much as you can, and pursue and build other interests to help with those softer skills.
Okay, so for me, kind of elaborating on what Jennifer said, talk to people, as many people as you can talk to. Find out what, when I was in high school, I did not have an inkling of the different types of careers and opportunities and jobs that were out there, or what career paths those people would have taken. So to echo what the previous two panelists have said, be curious, ask questions, find out what things your friends' parents do, what things your parents' friends do, as many different kind of people that you can ask those questions to, because you just never really know what's out there that might speak to you. And if you are lucky enough to know what it is you want to do, which I think is a very lucky, if you have that passion in you and you really know what you want to do, that's a very awesome thing. It's not saying that it's not awesome when you don't know, because I think more people don't than do. But if you do know what it is you want to do, find a mentor or somebody that you know in your community or through a session like this to talk to kind of point you in the right direction, give you some ideas of companies that might exist that you don't even know of, that might be doing very specialized things that really might interest you, or they're bringing on summer students, or have volunteer opportunities. There's really no end to kind of exploring as many options as you can. And like I said earlier, all of those options lead to you figuring out maybe what you like and also what you don't like. So talking to somebody and being like, yeah, that's definitely not a path I want to go down. Knowing that, and knowing that kind of when you apply to something where it might lead you, and knowing that's definitely not where you want to go, is also just as important. So making those connections and having those conversations, attending as many sessions like these as you can. I know some of them are during class time and you're stuck with us whether you want to be or not. But I think sometimes you may have opportunities at lunchtime to listen to these sessions, ask questions to the people that are there. And if you're like I was in high school and a little bit more shy, look these things up. There's tons of resources online to kind of see what careers are out there, or look up local businesses, and you may even be able to connect with somebody there to talk to. So as you can tell, I like talking to people and talking in general, but that would be my biggest tip.
Really fantastic advice. And I just want to reiterate the importance of reaching out and just connecting with different peoples working in different jobs. And I just wanted to quickly say that at the Gaia Project, we do have the Green Experts program where we're highlighting a bunch of different individuals working in the green sector all across the province. We have over 50 green experts right now participating in our program. And if you go on our website, you can see all the different jobs, companies that people are working and what they do and how they get there. And that's a really good place to start. If you're unsure of where to begin, and from there, reach out to people, talk, learn about what they do, exactly like what our panelists were saying. So that's really great. So now we have a little bit of time left. We have 10 minutes left, and I just want to open it up to the class to see if anyone has any questions. You can ask all the panelists, you can ask individual panelists. Yeah.
Thank you very much for all that information, guys. I think we can say thank you. And I'll just ask if anyone has any questions who they'd like to ask. Be nice to have one or two. Any questions? I think they might be shy.
Or
No,
overwhelmed with the amount of information
Yeah,
we just dumped on
yes,
them.
that's right. No questions, anybody?
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if there are no questions, I'd just like to thank everyone again for taking the time to join us. And I know that hopefully the students get a few things to take away from this. So that's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if the students don't have any questions, I have a couple more if the panelists don't mind me just asking one or two more questions, if that's okay with you guys. Yeah, so I think it'll be good for the students to kind of maybe get a sense of what a workday might look like as an engineer. So maybe talking a little bit about what an average workday might look like, what the work environment is kind of like. Maybe you can start with Jennifer, go to Raphael and Caroline.
Sure. So every day is different. The work that I do myself, I'm typically in an office setting. I work from home sometimes now. But I'm talking to people over Teams or in person, mostly over Teams. I'm writing a report or I'm reviewing a report that was written by somebody else. I'm meeting with clients to understand what their expectations are, what their needs are. I might be planning for a field crew to go out into the field to do some sort of a study or some sort of field work. Planning around, making sure that we have the right things in place to keep them safe. Safety is obviously the most important thing in all that we do. So, when we do anything field related or outside of the office, it's even more important. There's more hazards that can happen. So planning around safety management. So yeah, I mean, day to day, it's every day is different. The people that I work very closely with, similar, but some people do more field work. I don't really do any field work anymore, but some people really have a focus on field work. But it's a good variety. You can sort of find the right mix that you're looking for. If you want to be field based, if you want to be office based, if you want to be traveling and working in different parts of the country, there's different opportunities to find that for yourself.
Yeah, so it's very dependent on the type of job that you'll get as an engineer because the field is so various, so wide. I had different industry sector jobs. You know, for sure that when you're consulting and doing design, building, stuff like that, it's more office related, and you work from your office or home and everything. But you go out also because you have to go on the field and take measurement and go look, inspection the building. You need to talk with clients, so you travel a little bit around and so forth. But then again, I did a project in an underground mine, and it was 1 kilometer below the ground in a mine, right? And then I work in the wind industry where it was 100 meter in the air, so it's almost like completely the opposite way. So I work in the lead refinery, you know, and I just remember like that my first day at the wind park when I worked as my job, I had to go at every turbine and see if there was any dead bird, and we took a VTT, so I was drawing it side by side in the woods, going every pad, and I was like, having fun. I was, this is a blast. Like I'm being paid to draw the VTT, you know, side by side to go at every pad and just take a ride in the woods. So and look for birds. So it's various. It's just, sometimes it's not fun because then it's cold at -30, and now you're doing it's the opposite. But no, but you have, depending on the field, and you could be like I could have a project, you know, with NB Power going at Point Lepreau or whatever. So it's very various on what we on the field of where what's your day to day.
Very similar to Jennifer and Raphael. So I spend a good chunk of my time, probably 75% of my time, I'm in an office, doing, whether it's meetings with the team at work, or I pulled up my calendar to get a good feel, because I'm like, I don't even remember what I do half the time, because I just kind of rely on my calendar to tell me what I'm doing. So for an example, later this or next week, we're going out to do some sampling. We have some folks from First Nations communities coming out with us to do some sampling. So we're going to go out in the field to do some of that. I have a call with the Canadian Standards Association. We're developing a new standard around radioactive waste storage and what that looks like. So that's a call with folks from across Canada and actually some international folks as well to work on that standard. I have a walk down with the regulator up at what we call our solid radioactive waste management facility. So the site where all of the radioactive waste that's been generated since day one of our facility being operating is stored. We have a walk down to go kind of look up there. And I actually have training on, it's called Leadership Boot Camp. So it's a day of training where we go to kind of work on some of those soft skills that we talked about earlier. And mixed in with there are all of the typical like alignment meetings and planning meetings that go on during the run of a week. And we have an outage coming up, so that once we're in outage, my job will look totally different actually. Depending on different facilities, but for our facility, when we go into a maintenance outage, it's kind of an all hands on deck situation. So maybe typically I'm in an office, but for that 4 weeks, I'm going to be in the station every single day, getting my hands dirty, if you will. So I will be actually in my coveralls and hard hat and work boots out in the field, helping with the folks that are actually in the station, where there's certain areas of our plant that you have to have certain levels of training to be in because of radiation. So those of us that have that level of comfort with radiation go out and assist folks that maybe don't have that level of comfort to help them out. So for that period of time, I'll be working 12-hour days, overnight shifts. And nobody will want to be around me on the day I'm off. I can be guaranteeing you that. So a little bit of everything mixed in there.
That's really great. Thank you for sharing about your day. I'm sure it gave the students a really good idea what they can maybe expect, but only to an extent. And so that's where we'll be concluding our panel for today. I just want to again say thank you to our panelists for answering all of the questions. This was really helpful. I hope that the students gain a lot of information and knowledge today. And I just want to encourage other students to reach out to us, to any of the panelists or any of our other green experts. If you want to talk, if you want to learn more about the green sectors, where you can go, that kind of thing. But I also want to thank the class for participating and Lauren for helping us organize this all today. Thank you guys so much.